Community events are often for entertainment, social purposes, and even cause related. Today, we share the importance of local events within rural and agricultural America. Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. The other guy is my co host and father, Brandon. And we are joined by my lovely mother, Lisa. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out our social media at Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, and Twitter at the handles below. Big thank you to all our returning viewers, as always. But today's topic is entertainment and rural social events. So we tried this one before, and it didn't work because sometimes Zoom just doesn't like us. So here we are today. We're doing it again, and we're going to talk about steak fries and morning breakfasts, normally working towards volunteer fire departments, and why the volunteer fire department is so important to us, especially at the end of summer, right now in August 2022, and in a drought for the second year running. We'll talk about some fun stuff like draft horses and farmers markets, community bazaars, and then other things that we like to do and get involved with, and communities tend to support for kids and their entertainment, and also some of their upbringing and supporting them for things like FFA, 4-H, and so on and so forth. But then, of course, there's always the big thing of why all this is important, and it's being there for emergencies and being there to help support people when things go wrong. So with that, I'll start with Dad.
You can tell we're in an agricultural remote area when Zoom won't even work for us, right?
Yeah.
This is not the first time. So you can just tell that this is a labor of love because we continue to do these things over and over. Not over and over. We've had a few of these happen, but
it's pretty good mostly.
It's pretty good, yeah. No, it's the community events are what really allows us to see each other. You know, I mean, we don't travel and go and see each other like we used to when I was younger. People would just show up by the carload and you would visit. And that just doesn't seem to happen anymore. And part of that was because the entertainment we had or didn't have then was real. I mean, we never had a TV, you know, and a lot of people, the programming, you had 2 channels if you're lucky, and they were pretty snowy. So it was about visiting, just like they had before the advent of TV. So some of these things we go to
it's a chance to catch up with friends and family and neighbors.
And at the same time, like with the little farmers market, it was last weekend, we went to Harleton, just about 30 miles west of us here, and we picked up some produce. You know, we're trying to support other people who are in agriculture in different ways. And we had a homemade loaf of bread. You know, you can eat it yourself or make it yourself and eat it, but
it was delicious.
I think we ate the entire loaf of bread.
We had our carb
hours.
Load in 12 hours.
Oh my God, we couldn't stop.
It was the carbs necessary for the next month.
A slice of homemade bread that thick.
I mean,
you can't turn that down.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's your duty. It's a duty to go ahead.
It was a difficult one, but
yeah. But you know, we picked up some vegetables and even some a vendor from Billings, the seafood guys.
Yeah.
Were there, and we picked up a couple of their items we'd never had before. It was a boil.
That was kind of cool.
Really neat, you know. So but yeah, a lot of people, you know, some of the garden type things. There were people with jewelry, you know, some other wares like that.
And there was, I think, a Little League group selling things for donations for, I think it was uniforms, you know, stuff like that helps all age groups.
What were those things we bought? They were cone shaped.
We always call them krumkaka.
Okay.
I have an iron, and Calen's going to make some at Christmas.
So
you call them what?
Krumkaka.
What nationality are they?
I think it's Norwegian or Danish.
I think it's Norwegian.
I think it's spelled KRUMKAKE or.
But I'm asking Uncle Google right now.
Ask Uncle Google.
They're a very light pastry thing that you roll. How do you tell?
It looks like an open-ended ice cream cone, waffle cone, kind of, and then you can fill it with stuff. But I like them just unadulterated.
KRUMKAKE.
You did it.
I nailed it, man. I have an iron. Grandma gave me her iron. We need to make some.
So
well, there you go.
And
Okay.
here's a great part about this, and this is why I love some of these kids groups, especially that whenever they have something for sale, and what would it cost to make one of these things?
Oh, I
Like
don't know.
3 cents
I don't know.
with a
I know
batter.
it's
I mean,
sugar, flour,
yeah,
eggs,
I mean, and they say,
vanilla.
well, we're not charging for them. We're just asking for a donation.
Mm-hmm.
And so they got like 6 of them on a paper plate in a Ziploc bag. So what do? Oh, it's for them. So you throw down whatever's in your hand, you throw it. You might pay $7, $8, $10 for 6 of these things, but it's
But
what it
that's
goes
what
for.
it's going
That's
for,
a
yeah.
donation for a good cause for these kids, and they're trying. So we picked some of that up, and
Dad had never had that before, which I thought he had, and
I don't
so
think I ever have either. I've
I
seen it before. I don't think I've ever had
think,
it.
yeah, because we didn't have an iron, and so we never made it. But seemed like Christmas breaks were always we were
Baking.
right.
baking, but we were busy with other things too. So you need to put that on your list for when you're home.
I mean, when I was in high school, I was more focused on not getting fat from all the good food. So
I know that was
wrestling
a
kind
real
of killed that.
disappointment for me. So yeah.
Yeah.
Our baking exploits diminished rapidly when you went to high school and were
Yeah.
trying to maintain weight.
Hey, but I can still bake, man. Anyway, talking.
But the point is they also had, got to keep you guys on track here. They had
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that were selling
First time.
yeah, I know, selling meat. Even had, I think they had a grill set up, and they were selling
Oh yeah, it
burgers.
looked like they were getting ready to
Some other
grill
group,
something.
the local brewery up there had a couple of taps that you could buy a beer in the park.
How nice is that?
Yeah, that's
Walk around.
handy.
Yeah.
I think that's
So-
it.
I think it was to go stuff though. I think
Yeah,
it was growlers.
It was.
Yeah.
It was not to drink there in the park, but
we kind of talked about this last time towards the end of the conversation, but I think this is a good way to keep people on track if they're following us and talking to us. Like, why are they even discussing this? Because it has nothing to do with agriculture. That has a lot of things to do with agriculture right there, because you're talking about local farmers,
right.
and we're disregard the kids for a second, but like local farmers with the veggies and the fruits and stuff like that. And then you're talking butcher, so probably local meat. You've got locally butchered animals that are now being sold by a local butcher because they either bought that beef, or they're working with the producer to sell it, and they're going some sort of profit split. But that's where the nice thing about that farmer market being local, even so, with I think you said last time, like a dozen people there, or a dozen little venues, so to speak.
Yeah, it's small. It's small.
It's nice to have that, because where it's locally produced, probably the producers, you're putting more money in their pockets, taking less out of yours, and it's an overall good thing. And then going back to the point that we made last time we attempted this was for places that are, or people who are maybe in a more urban area, they're like, hey, how do I get this stuff? Because I don't know how to get to it.
Right.
Well, there's normally bigger places that still do this. You just have to find out when. Oftentimes it's a Saturday or a Sunday. And a good example of that is Billings. It's only about 70 miles away from the ranch, and they have a larger farmers market throughout the summertime. And I don't know what the time frame is, or how
they usually run it from about mid-July to first or second week in September, maybe from like 8 a.m. to noon, 12:30.
so
And
about
they
2
block
months.
off. Yeah, they block off about 4 city blocks. It's kind of a T actually.
Right.
And it's big.
How many vendors are at that?
Oh my gosh.
There's a
100
lot.
plus.
Yeah, that's what I
That's what
thought.
I was
It was
thinking.
100. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
because
and
you'll
it's
have
all
like
locally
fresh
supported too. Like,
flowers.
that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's when, and like you say, the urban folks saying, where can I get this? Well, it kind of comes to you.
In
They'll
that
meet you
regard, yeah.
halfway. Yeah, that you got to just go downtown and see what you want. But no, it's a really good, it's a very good way for people to even in the smaller towns get some of this fresh produce and some of the wares that even though
Yeah, 'cause
Harlow's not a very big town.
like this year we don't have a garden because we're doing a little rehab on the garden. And so there's no way for us to have fresh produce this year. And that's kind of nice because then even if you do have a garden, let's say your zucchini crop for whatever reason didn't make it this year, your tomatoes didn't make it. You got a place to be able to go get something fresh that's local.
Yeah, I agree.
And
And it's a great way of, like I said, full circle of being able to get cheaper food in terms of specifically meat. So we've talked about that before.
Right.
Meat continues to increase in price. You can get some meats that are still locally produced, and you're saving money at the same time.
Right.
All right.
And like with the local brewery,
Oh yes. How did I forget them?
Well, but
they
they're
have, they are using area grains
right.
and honey
Mhm.
because that brewery uses a lot of honey in theirs.
They use it
So
for their fermentation process.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
But that's
a
all
good
local.
thing.
They're not
They're
bringing
not,
that from
yeah.
outside. So they are also supporting someone who is, probably supporting them,
Mhm.
and everything is staying as local as possible, which is fantastic. A great thing to happen for
Yeah,
a local
absolutely.
economy like that.
Sticking with the local part, there's also things like social functions such as the steak fry or morning breakfast with volunteer fire departments.
Yeah.
I would like to get dad's opinion of that first, and then I'd like to get mom's because I think mom probably has a more social um perspective on this.
Well,
Why do you say those
I don't
things?
know. Because she's a social butterfly.
The social butterfly, yeah.
Um, well, to me, it's a fundraiser, right? I mean,
Mhm.
these are local volunteer groups, men and women that are just here that drop whatever they do to respond, and they have not just the fire, but they've also got the EMS side of that, which is, when somebody's in an elderly community, and our demographics are aging
Yes.
here in our local communities, and you need more and more help with someone who's going to volunteer their time as an EMT. Oftentimes they spend their own money to become EMTs, and then they are on call for the community. Um, it's a service, and it's also the same as with a fire. When a fire breaks out, we've got our fire rig set up right now. I've been on 3 fires. I'm not part of the volunteer group, but I am available to help them and work with them uh, in order to try to keep somebody's place from burning up. And so you just get on it and you go, but that takes money. When we do that, you just do it because you're a neighbor. But all of that equipment and the upkeep of the equipment that they have and the training that is necessary all takes cash. So you just try to support that as much as you can. And when they're doing a pancake breakfast, all you can eat, and these things are feeds. I mean, you could sit there and you could probably plump up pretty well with the amount of food and the type of foods that they provide in a half a day, from 7 in the morning until 11 noon. And you're paying, I don't know, 10-12 bucks a plate for that. It's not about that. It's about writing a check to them for a couple $100. That's what it's about. And you hope more people do that, because you cannot run these places and have them continue to serve your community without supporting them too. You may need them yourself. And there's a whole different perspective when somebody else needs it and they don't have the money, or when you need it and they don't have the money. We tend to personalize that stuff sometimes, or not personalize it, and that will make you really want to dig deep when you need them. So
Right.
to me, that's what it is. And it is a social event too. I mean, you
That's
get to
the
see
only
people.
time I get to see people.
Is it because you're chained at the bottom of a well and it puts the
Well, I
lotion
have
on
a
its skin or it
tether
gets
at
loose
the
again?
front door on the front porch,
I don't.
and it has only a limited range for whatever job I've been given for the day.
She
Oh,
doesn't have
funny.
the reference from Silence of the Lambs. I don't think she saw
Oh
that.
yeah, I didn't see that.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't like
Yeah,
those kind of movies.
that's definitely what I was referring. It's a good movie. Anyway, moving on. The other thing too, I think, and I'd like to get maybe Mom's perspective on this as well, because not as many women are in the volunteer fire department. There are some, but not as many. But I think we talked about this last time, was that the benefits are are good because those who cannot maybe physically participate, whether they're older or they're just not as strong, oftentimes the women, sorry if anybody thinks that's sexist, but that's kind of their way of benefiting too, is or providing some help is, hey, I can't physically be out there to help fight the fires with the other people there, but that's kind of the younger people. That tends to be some of the other the men, but a lot of the women and definitely the more elderly people who can't go out there. Their way of kind of supporting is through cash or through a check or through being there and supporting them as well.
Or they'll run to
Yeah.
town and they'll grab cases of water.
Water,
Yeah.
They'll make
sandwiches,
sandwiches.
stuff like that.
They'll feed people. That's a huge support.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have that happen without that kind of support.
Right. And I'd say, Dad, you said you're not part of the volunteer fire department, and I think, did I make a video of this? I don't recall. We'll have to find out. Or maybe it was a in the chute. It was an in the chute that you helped bring water out to those guys as well, and it wasn't necessarily water for them to hydrate with, but it was water to fight with. Can
Yeah.
you kind of talk about that, just like in the benefits of the community in general coming together when there's an emergency and trying to help each other out, kind of like what
Well,
you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, we had seen a column of smoke over the hill from us, and I thought it was, probably 3-4 miles. You can't tell. I mean, when it's over a hill like that, and so I called quicker, got on the phone, and I called the dispatcher, called the sheriff's office, and they said, yeah, I told them where I'd seen this, and they said, yeah, there is a fire over there. Told me where it was at, and I said, okay, do they need any help? She goes, they are asking for any and all resources they can possibly get. Done.
Right.
So you get in pickup and you go, but you've already got water in your tank. You can fight fire with it with a pump and spray down whatever you need to do. Well, I got there and they had some people on it already, obviously, but they didn't have enough water for some of these water tenders. And ours is a pretty rudimentary setup. It works great, but it isn't like it's got 2 different hoses and a lot of water in it, like 400-gallon tanks, that kind of stuff. I keep it about 250 to 300 gallon. Still a lot of weight for a pickup. Anyway, they're built for it and they need water, and they have 2 or 3 guys, that are working. At that point, I'm better off served by taking the water I have in my tank and dumping it into their portable pond that they set up, and until water tenders get there. And there was a water tender, but there's a lot of water being dispersed. So I went from just myself on a hose and a pickup and trying to do that yourself, it's kind of a pain, to now becoming a hauler of water as a water tender with a very small amount of water. Now I'm filling this thing all the way up and driving a little slower so you can make corners and your brakes work, and then dumping that water. Just kept, running back and forth, helping fill their pond until more water tenders or water trucks got there to help fill. And then it's like, okay, they got plenty of people on it. Now my role is really not as vital to help out. And so it's like, okay,
Don't want to get in the way.
yeah, you don't want to get in the way at that point. You got
Too many
other
cooks sometimes is
better
a problem.
better tools. Yeah, exactly right. No, it's exactly what it is. And it's hard to do that because you want to help, but it's like, okay, you have to recognize
You have
when
to know
your
if your
help is not
equipment
that much.
is
Yeah,
going to work. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I was by myself. I still didn't have anybody, with me, or you could have done that. And the type of terrain they were in really wasn't doing that well. They were
No.
using dozers and airplanes and helicopters to, dump retardant, and it was
Trains,
retardant.
planes, and
It wasn't just
automobiles.
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, yeah. So
So going back to the dinners and things, don't forget, it is a big social thing too. Because like for me, even though I've been in the community helping Dad and up here at the ranch forever, I still don't know a lot of people because most of the time we weren't in town or at events very often, or just once a year for me, that I'm still trying to figure out people's names and that too.
yeah, and I think
So
people know who you are, but you don't know who them, because it's easier
Right.
for everybody to know who one person is and
Right.
associate with
Yeah.
with me or the family to do that. And you're right, we just tend not to get out where I
your
only got
dad's an
so much rope.
isolationist, I think.
Kind of am, in a way.
Hmm.
But
How's that work?
but it's kind of fun. The day after we went to Harlowton, the next day there was a small bazaar
In
during the day.
downtown Rygate.
Yeah, at home at
At the
Rygate in the park. And there were probably 8, 10 vendors maybe there.
Yeah, I think so.
And so, everybody's got some food to sell, some canned things, handcrafted
Quilting
quilting,
items,
some woodworking
jewelry,
things,
woodworking,
uh,
some personalized or decorated mugs in
right?
that.
Gun raffle, yeah, and I mean, a large variety of things for, again, people in the community to go ahead and support. Of course, it was raining.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been, 90s, sunny, dry. I felt bad. That day was the day that it was like 50 degrees and drizzle. Loved the drizzle, but I felt bad for the vendors. They had their,
Yeah.
the pop-up awnings, but still it was pretty cool.
Well, it's pretty, it's cold or cool when it's the middle of August and I'm wearing a wool vest.
Yeah,
It's
that's
cool.
true.
Yeah.
The other question is for somebody who might be asking, the farmers market versus the community bazaar. Can you explain the difference between those two?
The bazaar was more arts and crafts and handmade items,
Hmm.
whereas the farmers market was more food items.
Yeah, I think it was basically the same thing, except the quantity of what the wares were. The bazaar had more of the crafted items and a little bit of food items. The farmer's market had a lot of food items and a little bit of crafted
Yeah.
things. So basically the same things. It's just the amount of what they had.
Okay.
I would agree
Yeah,
with that.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing too is I think Dad said something last time about you just said like the handmade items and the community bazaar is also an opportunity to kind of see if you don't know somebody as well, maybe some of those skills or those talents that they have with like woodworking
Right.
or
Right.
jewelry and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it gives you an association of, oh, that's so and so who makes these things.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
don't know, you may need to
Have something made.
have something made,
Right.
yeah, that now you know who to talk to.
Right. No,
And I
I like
think
it.
probably quite a few of those gals are probably in Grandma's quilting group because there was there
Yeah,
were
there-
2 or 3 that
yeah,
were
there were.
quilters there.
Yeah. The other question too is, Mom, you were saying like how you really haven't been part of the community as much because you guys were commuting for so long, and now that you're full time up there, you're starting to get to know people more. Not that Mom and Dad are drunkards, but they'll go to the bar occasionally where there's a grill and they'll have dinner
Yes.
or a lunch or something. How much more are you able to get to know people and tie them to who you know already and in the community and understand the web of relationships and stuff like that at the bar having a meal versus going to like volunteer fire department benefits and stuff like that, or the farmers market and you're like, oh hi, how are you?
Well, it all works together because you see certain people at the bar when you're having dinner or lunch, and then you see somebody else at the bazaar, and it's like, and Dad has to give me background. Okay, so this is so and so's cousin, and and my question always is, okay, older or younger than you? Because I'm associating, people that I've heard names and I've met maybe once or twice over the years
Big family names
with,
or areas.
yeah, area names. Because, there's some family names that there's like 6 families with the same name, right?
Right.
And then there's a lot of German ancestry here, and a lot of the names are very close. So then I
Mhm.
have to get used to, you know, the first 3 letters all start the same. And then I have to associate, oh, okay, I know who that is. Okay. Or, but it's really more intertwined. And I think it does help because I'm in more spots where I can
Well, and there's some,
see and interact
I
with
think
people.
at the little community, like the bazaar, you meet people there that you
Wouldn't
wouldn't
see
see
at the bar.
for a meal because they don't come to town.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were a few people that live quite a ways out of town. They just don't come in for lunch or
Right.
dinner.
Yeah, they're 20 miles out of town
So,
and
yeah.
gravel roads, and that's just not what they're coming in for.
But I met one lady there that Dad introduced me to, who I've heard of her name many, many times over the years, but I'd never met her. So that was kind of fun
Yeah.
to get to meet her. And we got some choke cherry syrup.
And
from her.
case in point, she knew who you were. She knew
She
your name,
did,
and she
yeah.
knew that you taught and
Yeah.
all of these things.
Because she quilted with grandma.
Right.
So she knew who I was. Yeah, but we'd never met. So
Interesting.
that was kind of cool.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I mean, and it might be part of this too, just the stuff that you're no going to the bar, it essentially entails alcohol as well, because people often will just, if they're an alcoholic or they just don't want to be near that scene, they'll just stay away from it entirely, even though there's food to be had.
Right.
And the fact that you're going to somewhere where it's clearly non-alcoholic whatsoever, it's just food. It's just
So I'm not a drunkard.
items.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like, no, really though, it's like, that opens up another opportunity to see different people, because you may or
Right.
may not see them otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
All right,
But yeah, it's
moving
been
on
busy.
okay, yeah, moving on to kids. The other part of the community events is to support kids, and I think Dad said something one time about like little local stick rodeos,
Right.
Stick horse rodeos.
They
There's
had
also
one the end of July, I think
Yeah.
it was.
end of July, so missed it by 2
we
weeks.
didn't, and we didn't find out about it.
We had plans for that day.
We had to go to Billings.
I thought it was maybe with my parents.
Yeah, it was.
And so we had already made some arrangements to be gone that day. And then we found out about it. And so we missed it. But Connie went and she said it was the cutest darn thing. They had a lot of kids there, and the local FFA older kids kind of ran it or, operated it. And I guess they just had so much fun.
But even in an area like this, an agricultural area, there are some things that some of the kids that live in town
Don't get to
don't
do.
get to do. And so they had like a little petting zoo and that. So like next year, we're hoping to be able to take something in that even in an area you don't see that often.
Ears.
And that would be a little mule. A little baby mule.
Wouldn't that
would be
be
kind of
cool?
fun. So
Just gotta get here.
yeah, just got to get here is right. So that's kind of a neat thing, to be able to contribute with that without, because we don't have kids in school anymore,
Right.
And but those are things that they're trying to do for these kids and organize for our local folks. And again, it is a community thing that even some of the older folks will come out for, because they want to see.
They want to visit with
Yeah.
people, and they want to just see the little guys because they get so excited.
Yeah, they had a little rodeo.
I was gonna say the little ones. This is an opportunity for the little ones too. Like you were saying, those that aren't involved in ag, or those that are, to kind of show the highlights of like, this is what it can be, because we've talked about it, it's less than 2% of the United States is farmers and ranchers. So keeping people coming back to try and support agriculture, because otherwise they're just gonna disappear.
Well,
so
Right.
this is a good opportunity to help them like instill like some excitement and some desire to be in it.
But there's some things that have absolutely nothing to do with agriculture, really, like the little stick rodeo, and they have mutton busting that any of these little kids can get on, and try to ride a sheep. And it doesn't matter where you're from or where you're boy or girl, it does not matter. You can participate in these things. And it's more, to me, those are more of a catalyst to bring people together again in the community and do things as a group, and have that community spirit.
And I think the Reigate area, Lavina area, and all three, Harlow, I think they work really hard at trying to gather people. Like in Harlow, the brewery has music every Friday night. Is it Friday or Saturday? And they've got a little stage set up, so it's a patio. They bring in some bigger bands twice this summer. They did.
Really nice. I mean,
shut off the street and try to pull people in. And I think that's important because, like you said, such a small percentage of people are in ag, and they're trying to draw people to the communities so that they maybe get a little bit of an understanding of what the ag world's about.
Well, and there's some economy based
fun.
in there
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You got to try to boost your economy somehow. And if they can do that, and there's still something about a street dance
that everybody likes,
that people like.
Yeah.
You're able to mill around. You're able to have a beer in your hand outside on the street and it's good.
Listen to music.
And
Yeah.
listen to some good music, you know, and there are local talent everywhere you go. And some of these folks are, you know, they've done it for years, just love doing it for just the sake of doing it. And others have been someplace. They've done some recordings. They've spent some time in places like Nashville, and they
come
are
back.
serious contenders, and they're very, very good. But, you know, they just didn't get that whatever support by, you know, that some guy with a big cigar,
label,
you know,
yeah.
that a big label, yeah. Or it just doesn't work out for them.
Going back to the point that you said with you thought maybe the FFA helped the stick rodeo. Did that stick rodeo benefit the FFA at all in terms of a little bit of monetary support for the trips that they do and stuff like that?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I was
Yeah.
more in the impression that it was
More volunteer.
yeah, that it was just
Yeah.
an event,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
to kind of
that's
spur
okay.
some interest. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it still just goes back to the part of bringing people into the community, getting
Right.
getting kids to support, getting kids interested.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the other part too is, I mean, what we do with the channel is education, you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
teaching, you
Right.
know, hey, this is a horse. Oh, okay. Well, what makes this little horse different from this big horse?
Right.
Right.
Well, one, this is a baby. This one's grown up, or well, this one's just
Different
evil,
breed.
and God decided that it needed to be in a small package. And this one's large and docile and amazing.
Are you talking about ponies? Those
Yes,
little
he's
No,
talking about
buggers?
ponies are so mean, man.
Oh, they're ornery.
But you know, part of the thing with whether even if it's not a fundraiser, part of what 4-H and FFA are about is volunteering for your community.
Mhm.
And it's not
Yeah.
always about fundraising, it's doing things as a service. So, you know, I think that I don't know that answer for sure, but my impression was that was more of a service
That's
thing.
what my impression
Yeah.
was too.
Yeah. No, that's
Oh.
fine. I mean, I was just wondering, honestly.
Yeah.
And the last thing I have on this list before mom just decides to go willy-nilly and talk whatever she wants to talk about is
I don't do that.
okay. Entertainment in general. And for example, last night the two of you went to a draft horse pull. I mean, we just enjoy sometimes entertainment, like you were saying earlier with like going to the brewery, maybe dancing, having a couple of beers, and then go home. That's it. There's also stuff like going out and seeing the draft horses. I know you guys like going to the brews and barbecue every summer, and someday I will get to join you in that. But the draft horses, like I would love to see that because I've never seen a draft horse pull, and it's just pure entertainment, and it's also something that's still up our alley because we appreciate horses and the power that they can provide with literally their physical labor. Can you explain like what happened, what was going on, and how you maybe somebody who might be interested in something like this could potentially also find it in their area?
So, the Draft Horse Expo is something that Montana Fair and Billings has every year.
Oh.
Yeah, they've had
every-
it. They've had it
Why
most
am I
years.
going to home improvement shows
Or
with
the
you
meat show?
a couple of years in a row, or a couple? Oh my God, what? You've been hiding things from me.
So they
Somebody
have
got
the Draft
honey-potted.
Horse show most every year. The reason we don't go is I'll say, "Hey, this is on this day. Oh, we got something to do.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm working. Oh, I got this I need to take care of." I wonder why we don't go to these things. But, you know, it's just
Shots
me.
fired.
It might be just all me. Anywho, most of the time, I think it's been quite a few years they've had this on the first weekend of the fair in the afternoon, which if anybody out there has any pull with the scheduling, I would recommend not the hottest time of the day.
Yeah.
But, you know, but
Not only
anyway,
for the viewers, but also
the
for the
ponies.
participants, the horses,
Yeah.
because they are working their little tails off.
They are. But, you know, remember when you were little and we would do those open horse shows
Mhm.
in the fall typically? And then
Yeah.
we did some in the summer over in eastern Montana. And it's the same kind of idea. They show, you know, what the horses can do as far as driving and what the driver's skill level is. And then after they had a couple of classes, they did a parade of horses. And everybody who was participating would come in and the announcer would ask them some questions about their ponies. So like Anna and Elvis were a pair, and Chet and Charlie were a pair. They were full brothers. And they'd ask about the breed. Maybe if she didn't know much about the breed, she'd ask them more about the breed, their ages,
what
and
they did,
what all
what
they
they could
did.
do in harness.
Yeah, like some mowed hay, some pulled hay, some were still ridden,
Some were logging.
some were logging.
Wow.
One
Parade.
gal does a lot of parades. She owns a couple funeral homes here in town, and so she provides that casket in the back of the
Mhm.
wagon as a service, as well as pulling the family in carriages, which that is so cool in our
Oh, yeah.
area.
Another one is a wedding.
Yeah,
venues.
like Sleeping Beauty, or no,
Yep.
was it
Well,
Sleeping?
no, that was
Cinderella.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
Cinderella carriage, and it was pretty. So that I liked the parade. I thought that honestly was kind of my favorite part, because Dad always talks about the cobs and the uh
Well, the type of
peewins,
harness.
the harness and all this, and then we got to see mules.
Yes.
And
He said there was a full team that was black mules with white stockings.
they were so pretty.
That's crazy.
And
Very well
I've never
matched.
seen a mule with stockings, to be honest. It's normally just all brown or like all grayish,
oh,
or
they were pretty. And
sorry, more like a bay.
And the two that he started with, the pair that he started with in the first class,
Mm-hmm.
their little ears.
You mean their big ears?
Yeah, they were turning those ears around, paying attention to what he was doing, and I just thought they were cool.
Well,
Mules are
then
awesome with their ears because they're so expressive with them too.
Right.
They are, yeah.
Well, and then he brought them in when they did a parade of breeds. There was two breeds that I'd never heard of. One was
Yeah.
a Gypsy Veiner, which is a small. It looks like a small.
They have such
Like a
pretty
Clydesdale,
hair,
you know,
long,
feathers like
flowing
yeah.
hair.
Did they say how to spell Vayner?
Vanner.
We asked
Oh,
Mr.
there it
Google.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some Suffolk. I'd never heard of those. Those are more of a southern, and you might have them in your area in Kentucky, and the East Coast.
Yeah,
But
probably.
yeah, but
Man, those
what
are
was
pretty horses though. They almost look like a mix between a Clydesdale and a Frisian.
But they're
Right.
tiny. They're little.
they're small.
Yeah.
They're not a miniature. They're just a cob, just a small horse. A cob is just a kind of a class of draft horse, like a smaller.
Would
draft
you
horse.
put them at 14 hands?
Maybe
Maybe.
The Gypsy
Yeah, they're not
Vayner
very big.
or the Suffolk?
the Gypsy Veiner.
The Gypsy Veiner.
Really? They're
It's
that
little.
small, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're small. But
That's-
they're just a thick, smaller horse, kind of like a halflinger
And
size.
the one guy that had this little Gypsy Veiner, she had such a pretty way that she carried herself. Her neck was kind of arched and her nose down, and her hair was just flowing. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah, her collection was, she was bent at the pole and her face was straight up and down, had some arch to her neck, and she would step out. I mean, she was kind of parade quality
Yeah.
showmanship there.
Yeah.
And she was only 6.
Yeah,
She was very young. The judge said, "You can see that this horse has been around and these two have worked together a long time." And then he found out they've only been together a year and a half and she was only 6. And he's like, "Wow, I misread that
I was
one
wrong, yeah.
completely." Yeah.
But I thought the same thing. I thought, yeah, that horse has had a lot of work and been in a lot of shows. I told Mom, I said, I don't think she's that old, but she's had a lot of work.
Yeah,
been around a lot, but yeah.
That probably says a lot about one of two things or both. It's the breed and the handler, whoever's dealing, working with those horses and whatnot too.
He's a fairly young guy. I thought he was probably in his 20s, but
Yeah.
I thought he was very experienced. You could tell by the way he handled the lines. He was very experienced
Yeah.
in that.
Lots of practice.
Lots of practice. Yeah. One of the things that was kind of neat with the breed demonstration was the guy who had the mules hooked up another set. So he actually had a team. He had a team of 4, and the ages on those mules ranged from, was it 2 to 19?
Wow.
I thought it was 10 to 22. Maybe it was 2 to 22. He had a 22-year-old.
Okay, there was a 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you get all the individual ages. You're right.
Yeah.
But of course, the wheel team was the big ones, the big mules that he
Yeah.
had together as a pair.
Originally.
And then the younger one, you could tell the one was younger on the near side lead. Yeah, it was looking all over the place, but
That's what the older ones are there for, though. They're putting her in
That's
place.
right.
Like, hey, stop.
but it was definitely a lead team because those mules were markedly smaller than the wheel team and the rear team,
Yeah.
like they're supposed to be, but
Yeah.
good. The Suffolks were a very young team as well. One was
No, which
I
one
gotta
was
look.
Suffolk?
Those were the
the
other ones I
red,
was gonna look at.
they were the real light,
The
or
red,
real
red.
reddish sorrel.
Oh yeah, they were like 4 and 6.
Yeah, but they were a very new team. You could
Maggie
tell.
and
See, she
Oh
would know
wow.
the
Okay.
names.
So they almost look like
Mabel and
a less
Maggie.
larger blazed version of a Clydesdale, I guess. They
Well,
don't have as
they
much
didn't have the
frills to them.
feathers. Yeah, they didn't have the feathers.
Well, because
They look
Clydesdales are usually bay-like.
they look to me like just a large sorrel
Yeah,
saddle horse.
yeah.
And they're riding a
Yeah.
lot of these horses and mules as well.
Right. Wow. Okay. They're kind of cool.
Yeah.
How big are they? About 16, 17 hands?
No,
They
weren't very
they
big.
were about 16 hands.
Were they?
Well, you gotta remember some of those Belgians, those guys are like 17 hands.
It was like 17. Some of them push 19. Yeah.
Yeah, the Clydesdales are the largest
Those
breed.
Belgians, I think, were probably 18, 19. They were
Well,
huge.
they're not gonna be 19 hands.
They
I mean,
were
you're getting Clydesdale
huge.
size there. They were
They
big.
were
They thick.
Clydesdale size almost. They were huge. I think those two little girls.
And what were their names?
That was Chet and Charlie.
See,
Yeah, that was Chet.
she
and
knows their
Charlie.
names. And
But the two girls, the ones I'm thinking of, they were much smaller. They were
Yeah.
cob
no,
size.
not those red ones. No, not the Suffolks. They were kind of in between. They were probably a good easy 16 hand horse.
Okay.
But they didn't look as big because they were narrower. They were thinner. They were younger. They
Oh,
didn't have the fill out, the fleshiness that some of the others did. But because they were young, they're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
they're still maturing pretty well. Yeah, it was,
what kind of horses were the black and white Anna and Elvis that the young girl in the second class won?
oh, don't
A
remember.
black draft.
No,
They
they
look
were
like a paint draft.
they were
in a way.
paint looking. Yeah.
They might have been
I
also
mean,
a Gypsy Vayner.
I was gonna say
They
I was
were
looking.
bigger.
Most of the pictures I saw of the Gypsy Vayner, they were like a paint,
Yeah, I think they may have been
Were they?
also. Yeah.
Okay.
like a white and black. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They were
Most of the
pretty.
pictures I saw on Uncle Google showed like a black and white paint for
Yeah.
Gypsy
Yeah.
Vayner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All
Anyway,
right,
I liked their names.
That's all I got for today, folks.
But guess
Alright.
what? The good news is your mother's letting me go back down
Well,
to
because
watch.
today they're doing the log pull.
Yeah, they're
Well,
doing
you
some
better take
obstacle
some video.
stuff.
We're gonna put it all together and
Yeah.
post it on YouTube.
I think so.
We'll do something like that. But yeah, we're gonna get some stuff with obstacles and
Oh,
they
yeah.
were showing off their rigs yesterday too.
Was
That's
there-
antique stuff. You had manure spreader. Oh, what was
Oh,
really
that
cool.
was cool. Yeah.
The big Belgians had been
Uh-huh.
worked a lot, and they're just pulling a cart, four
God, they
cart.
had big butts. They were just huge. They were so pretty.
But so they're in a four cart, which is just a implement you can sit on, and then you can pull something with it. And then
Yeah.
he had them hooked up to a a mower,
A mower, yeah.
and they were kind of moving. They were, watching the crowd, and it was kind of just not quite paying attention to one. He hooked that mower up, and they asked him if he would lay it down and then start it
Demonstrate
to
how
demonstrate
it works.
how it worked. And it's wheel driven. The moment that mower started going,
And they heard it.
they heard it. They lined out straight and had a speed to them that was consistent with what you would want to mow, and they just went to work.
Oh,
They
it
knew
was
what they were doing.
amazing.
They had a purpose.
They
They were
had a
focused.
purpose,
Yep.
and they knew what they were supposed to do and what
Yeah.
speed they were supposed to.
Instead of
go.
lollygagging around in circles, they're like,
And,
okay.
and like
time
the
to work.
announcer said, if you made a couple of rounds around a field with them and you're cutting, they know exactly where they're supposed to be because where you're holding, and they will keep that far away from the old grass,
The windrow.
the
And
windrow, and
Yeah.
and it's not really windrow. They're just knocking it all down. Then you
Oh,
got
I
It's
see.
then you got
crazy
to
how they
rake it
learn that
later.
stuff.
Well, they're
Yeah.
smart, it's all
Yeah.
about repetition, right? So
Yeah.
really cool, great demonstration. I had one with a manure spreader, old manure spreader, probably 100 years old,
Yeah, she said it was over
that
100
had been
years old.
rebuilt. And
Yeah.
she asked him to go ahead. It's her husband that was driving him.
Yeah.
And she goes, why don't you go ahead and start that manure spreader? Yeah, while she's safely in the stands, and they'd never done that before.
First time to town.
Yeah.
Never
Oh,
done
wow.
any of this
Yeah.
before. And
So how many times have we done that with new horses? Take them to a show because man, it puts a lot of depth on them. It's the first time
Yeah.
they've ever been exposed to that. But he's doing the same thing, and he started that manure spreader, and they never missed a
not a
beat.
problem.
It was
Nice.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Nice.
was really good showmanship there, and so we get to go down and watch a couple more hours today, and go and see your grandpa and grandma, and take some food to them.
Don't tell them, but I think they're getting Chinese.
Yeah, they said
Oh,
surprise.
shocker.
Yeah.
Well, that's social events, beneficial events, and then of course we ended with plain old entertainment with draft horses because we always get googly eyed over the draft horses because we don't get to see them as often. So
And Dad
Uh,
won't let me have
And
any.
oh yeah, I want to. We're trying. I've got harness, so I'm trying to build some.
He
some
won't let
carts.
me have the big
well,
ones.
hopefully there'll
Yeah,
be
not the big
a
ones.
large mule that you can use too.
That would be
Oof.
fun. Yeah.
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 That'd be good.
So do you want to sign us out? Do you know what we say?
Oh, remind me.
We can't pay you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks for joining us, and until you're better paid.
There you go.
Thanks.
Good enough.
Good enough.